Hi, I know it's the last, well, not the last, but almost the last one. And it's a bit late and we might be a bit tired as well after hearing so many interesting things today. But I'm very, very happy to be talking to these amazing guys this evening, and very honored as well because they're all visionaries in their industries and they have done really amazing things. Sometimes a bit too early maybe because they were too visionaries, but they have been learning during all these years about how to improve their industry and how to put nature as well as a stakeholder, how to co-create with nature in some cases as well, or to base their whole models on nature and conservation. So we're going to hear from these fantastic panelists today. And my name is Ariana Gomez. I'm founder and CEO of Technology for Impact. It's a consulting company where we help other companies from global big ones like Uber or Nike to very small startups to transition to stakeholder, sustainable, decarbonized, and nature-positive strategies, mindsets, and business models. So all along these years, we have learned that sustainability is not easy. It can be easy if you do greenwashing, right? You can just say, oh, it's green, so now we have green coffee or green cars, and then that's it. That's not sustainability, really. Sustainability needs strategy, but it also needs leadership. It needs innovation. It needs funding. It needs technology. It also needs a mindset and a visionary mindset to decide what future do we want to build and how do we make it happen. And it also needs a very fast metabolism, because if you're not able to understand the challenges of the market and then do something about it, if someone tells you this is happening, then it takes you ages to take decisions as the leader or owner of your company, then sustainability will pay for that as well. And so after learning all of these, we really are going to find out how companies who are setting an example, not only to their employees, but also to all the other stakeholders, their vendors, their partners, and their consumers, are living sustainability every day. So without further ado, I want to let you hear from all of them who they are. I think it's better if everyone introduces themselves. Let's get this started. So please bear with us. It will be a very cool panel, I promise. Okay.
Hi, my name is Enrique Lomnitz. I am director and one of the co-founders of a project called Isla Urbana. We're an organization that promotes decentralized water solutions. Particularly, we promote the use of rainwater harvesting as a way of providing sustainable water access in contexts that, for several reasons, are chronically precarious in their water access. So we work a lot in the peri-urban areas, in rural communities, in places that have kind of persistently been difficult to supply through conventional systems, but through a proposal that seeks wider and wider acceptance of this kind of idea of decentralization of technology, of building water infrastructure that is fully autonomous and managed by the end users themselves. And we've been doing lots of projects. We've worked primarily with Mexico City. We're doing a lot of work with Mexico City now. We're also working with Guadalajara right now. We're installing many household level rainwater harvesting systems and rainwater harvesting systems in schools. We also work with several indigenous communities throughout the country, and trying to promote and develop and try and get as many people as possible harvesting, storing, and treating their own drinking water through rainwater harvesting.
Well, my name is Rafael Micha, and sorry, not sorry, I have the best job in Mexico. We used to do lifestyle hotels. Now we do 100% solar-powered hotels. Our latest one is called Terrestre. It opened 2 months ago. It's 100% solar-powered, and all of our 15 hotels are going that way. This is a lifestyle choice that we decided almost 15 years ago. with the opening of Hotel Escondido in Puerto Escondido. And now we become very committed to the sustainable trend. Not only we do 100% sustainable and hotels, but we also support the local harvesting, and we've been partnering with Lucio probably since 2016 in different lives. And now this past year, Lucio through Arca has helped us supply organic and many indigenous and endemic ingredients for our chef residency program, which we hosted in the past 9 months at Círculo Mexicano. And some might recall, maybe not all, our first, one of our first projects, 2005, was Hotel Básico, and it was all done with recyclable materials. So we are very committed and hope you get into this amazing discussion, which is sustainability.
Hi, first of all, thanks for having me here. I'm really glad that I'm meeting all of you guys. My name is Alonso Rodriguez. I'm the founder of Mares de Mexico. Mares de Mexico, it's a company which mission is to motivate people to participate and take action in the collective efforts for protecting our oceans. And how do we do this? Like, having this like angle of working has made us be like very manuable, like changing, like we have different scopes on how to work with people and how to motivate them. So one of the things we do the most is media creation and documentation. So through expeditions and different experiences, we go and work with communities and go to the front lines of where action has to take part and document these places. Later with that, we start creating content, not only like for audiovisual places, but also museums, and we've been working with some hotels too, and different artists and different people from the community. So the media and the documentation we do helps in many ways. 8 months ago, we opened one of our first museums in Toluca City. What we want to do is take education to the cities and places far away from the coastlines, because like, I don't know if all of us know, but only less than 2% of the people can scuba dive or know how the ocean actually looks like. So if you don't know what you're protecting, you're not gonna be able to protect it in the right way. So this museum that we opened in Toluca is having more than 4,000 people a month attending. That people that don't have access to Nat Geo, people that don't have access to electricity sometimes, to a TV, to a computer. So making a physical place where they can go and have a similar experience to what is a scuba diving trip, but outside the water, has been like very fulfilling for us. This started as a hobby. I'm a photographer and videographer, so like this wasn't really on my plans, but after being there and learning and talking with people, like I just couldn't step away and just continue with my life. And now I'm here talking in front of people. I don't like talking with people, so it's a big challenge for me. And my invitation to all of you guys is to connect, to talk with each other, so see what we can do, because I'm sure that any industry and anyone can help in this collective action. Like, it doesn't matter if you're a lawyer or if you are a hotel business enterprise, or if you are into food or into entertainment. I think like we all have a part to do, because as a community is how things are changed and done. Like, being alone in this is very hard, but being in a room like this and knowing that the projects that I have been talking to, like that haven't been able to get funding, are gonna have a better scope now of possibility. Knowing all of you guys is just fulfilling for me, and I hope we can connect. I hope you can get in love with the ocean as I am, and I hope I can take you guys on expeditions to live this in first hand and see the problems that are already visible in like places where I used to swim when I was a kid. Now you go and you don't see coral, you don't see fish, you see almost a dead ocean. Like the ocean is very resilient, and we know the world is too, but we're getting there, we're getting close. Every day that passes is getting worse. So this is a call to action to see how we can all put our part. I know you guys are all motivated already because like you're the leaders of this industry, but we still need to invite a lot of people that are not sitting here to join in a way, and we need to facilitate that because I know that a lot of people want to work in this, but not everyone knows how or which way or which path to take. So my job here is to help people to connect, help people to be able to collaborate and contribute to saving the world. Thank you.
First of all, thanks for the invitation, Chris. It's a real privilege to be talking with these guys and with Ariana. All the other projects are of inspiration to me. And well, my name is Lucio Usobiaga, and I am the founder and director of Arca Tierra. What we do is we work with campesino farmers in Mexico City, in state of Mexico and Hidalgo and Puebla. And basically I discovered when I was about 23 years old, the importance of agriculture, specifically the importance of campesino agriculture in so many ways. No? I wanted to become an academic, and in the middle of that road, a bit like Alonso, I ended up working with farmers, and it's basically for two reasons. No? First, the wonder that can produce agriculture, know how food is produced, how plants grow, how the life cycles work. For me, it's really beautiful, and it never ceases to amaze me, and I always learn. And second of all, even though if I'm not that into food, I've become more of a foodie because of what I do, but I see that food is probably the most powerful medium for social, environmental, and cultural transformation. And in that same respect is that campesino farmers are, for Arca Tierra, the guardians of the earth, the custodians of our culinary cultures and many traditions. And most of the time we don't know who they are, where they are. Most of the times they are badly paid. They have very difficult jobs. And the worst of all is that nowadays nobody wants to become a farmer. No, there's not a generational renewal. And in my opinion, that is one of the worst or most difficult challenges we have as of now, because in few industries or ways of economy, the contrast is so clear of how industrial agriculture is so harmful for the planet, and it produces very bad quality food. Know that sometimes it makes us sick and exploits farmers and the earth. And on the other hand, we have this kind of agriculture, especially in third world countries, in Latin America, and Asia, and Africa, where most of the food is produced by campesinos. I don't say peasant because I think it's not a synonym or a perfect translation. And so when I discovered this, I took it upon myself to work on helping and on making it known. And as a matter of fact, most of the food is produced by these small-scale farmers. We are told many lies by the food industry, and right now we think that all the solutions will be technological. And I can tell you that at least in the food part, not only business, it's learning a lot from nature and how to produce with nature. No. I mean, nature has much more years of practice, than we have. So it's just like letting us be amazed, and also knowing where our food comes from and what impact it has on everyday life for many people.
Thanks. Hi, my name is Lalo. I'm a farmer. I became a farmer so that Lucio could sleep at night. I'm also the director at Buna, a project that we started 10 years ago. And while for most people it's seen as a coffee company, that's what most people perceive us as. It's really, coffee is just the universal drug and guise that allows us to drive the economic motor of our conservation efforts. We are mostly dedicated to understand how we can better participate with smallholder farmers. I, like Lucio, also believe that the best technology is biology, and we help, help is the wrong word. We participate with small producers and our teams to understand how we can better relate to nature, to produce the food that we need to eat while we increase biodiversity. That's really what we do as a company, and I'll keep it short because I know there's a lot of content.
Well, thank you for those amazing introductions, and I think we already have an idea of what amazing visionaries have been doing past years and what they have been building as well. And I want to go a little bit deeper and ask you, because you have a microphone right now, Lalo. Buna has been a little bit like something in disguise, right? Most companies would like to say to the world that they're sustainable when they're actually maybe not doing the right thing. But you guys are actually a little bit the other round. You are a conservation initiative or company. That's your focus, that's your goal, but you happen to sell chocolate, by the way. So what do you have to tell to the audience here? There are some entrepreneurs, VCs, and to anyone who wants to learn how to build and found a company with those principles. People tend to think from old paradigms that you can only make money if you leave nature and conservation on the side. It's a side dish. So when the economy is doing well, let's do it. But if the economy is not doing well, then that's not a priority. You guys have built already a thriving business by putting nature and conservation at the center of that. So having said that, what is it that you can tell people if they want to do something like that? What are the learnings there? And also, what is the future that you imagine for your industry, the ideal future? And what's the one thing you are doing today, Buna is doing today to make that future happen? So learning and future.
Learning and future. It's always tougher. I love receiving advice. It's very tough for us to give advice. What do you tell someone? Keep going, I guess, is the best advice I have to give. It's shorthand to say, when you mentioned us being very bad at speaking about what we do, everyone always tells us, why don't you share more about your purpose and the strong commitment you have to conservation? We've recently hired someone to help us who is in this room. But we did it in that way because we believed at the time, 10 years ago, that we were in what is usually called a red ocean. Everyone who's in coffee talks about fair trade. Everyone talks about shade grown. Everyone talks about direct trade. Everyone who works in coffee helps producers. But what we were doing seemed very different to what they were doing. So if we used the same language, it wasn't going to work. So we just decided on the consumer side to focus on what was relevant to them, consumer-centered solutions. And they care that the coffee is yummy, and that's all we talk to them about. And when people are interested, then we let go, and we really tell them everything that we're passionate about. So it's just a story to say that the best advice we have is to use the amazing things that you have going in your favor by being willing to face the challenges of today in your favor. There are many advantages to doing what you guys are focusing on as businesses. In terms of where I see the industry going and what we are doing today, we believe nature to be, as agro-industrial farmers, most people to believe that nature has a certain capacity, and it's quite limited what they think nature can do. And when you work with biology and within biological systems, you can generate not only a positive impact that you can fill books with all of the positive impacts of using biology, but specifically for the business, it also drastically increases productivity. And so we've gotten to a point, the famous tipping point that is so often talked about in so many sectors, we've crossed it, I would say, in coffee. And so I think there's no future in coffee without biological systems and away from chemical systems in nature. And the third part, that was it.
What are you doing about that?
Well, that is what we're doing. We work with people, fungi, bacteria, and plants to be able to produce more coffee with less inputs, that is tastier, more nutriently dense, and truly sustainable. It can be sustained through time.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Lalo. And I'm going to jump to you, Rafa. And so you have been like the rebel in the hotel industry a little bit. And this visionary that, as we were saying with Básico, was sometimes maybe too early in that way. Some people didn't understand at that time, like, why is this hotel full of tires? And there were 2 industrial tanks on the rooftop in Playa del Carmen. That was a swimming pool, and people were not used to that. They wanted the typical big resort, blue swimming pool. But you are like, no, let's do this. And your hotels are amazing. But now you're proving to the industry, to a whole industry, that you can move from business as usual to sustainability. What can you tell us about that journey? What have been the challenges? But most of all, what's the future of that? It must be super exciting to hear it from you. What's the future of the hotel industry and the experience industry? What are you guys doing about that?
Thank you, Ariana. Well, it's been a learning curve with a trial and error, lots of errors, which in the hotel industry, errors, you get punished for the errors. For us, it's been amazing. I mean, because it's been a very interesting learning curve, which started at Básico in Playa del Carmen, and with all that recycling that we did, we really shaped the industry, the hotel industry around the world, and we started to get awards for design. Now our focus has shifted, and we are no longer a design-oriented hospitality company. We are much more a sustainable-driven hospitality company. And this is, first and foremost, no lip service, no greenwashing. We put our money where our American Express card is, and that's what we do. We just build a hotel which is 100% solar paneled. We have no landscaping inside. We don't do water for watering the plants, for having a gorgeous, nice green landscape. We have what it is, the endemic vegetation of the coast of Oaxaca, of the Sierra Madre. That's what the guests come for. This is what we started doing 10 years ago with Hotel Escondido, and now we sort of exponentially did a terrestre with Alberto Calach. So having a great architect who is committed, who is driven towards sustainability, helps you achieve that, no? And I think the industry has noticed what we're doing. This past year, it's been amazing because everywhere that we go, where the hotel is published, it's getting accolades Wallpaper magazine named Terrestre as a hotel of the year. I just spent a week ago at the Hospitality Design Awards, and Terrestre again won the most important award as a sustainable property. And it's about learning with the experts, with the professionals. We do the hospitality math, and the sustainability team does its work. And of course, all the communication has to be perfectly geared towards our goal. We don't want to get the guests who need to crank up the AC because we don't have AC at Escondido. So we don't want that guest that is going to bitch the whole stay about not having a cool enough atmosphere. We have an amazing cross current that it's a driven, and that's what we do. The water is not super hot, but that's how we like it. It's in the coast. You don't want to get scalded. No, during your water, you have to be committed to saving water. You have to be committed to a farm to table menu, to a local oriented gastronomy. Those are our guests. That's what we aim for. We aim to educate ourselves together. We don't want to preach towards the guest or the non-guests. But of course, I was just last week in one which is perceived as top 5 hotels in the country. And if I wouldn't have been so aware, I might have gone through probably 20 or so water bottles during my weekend stay, 30 plus amenities, plastic amenities. And of course, this hotel pretends it's green because they say they have a drive to put the community kids through school. That is not being sustainable. That is doing charity work. That is another thing. No, what we want to do, we want to work with the community. We want to educate ourselves, the guests and the community towards that end. And if our 14-room only hotel, 14 rooms, maybe it's a petri dish, but we are working on small contained environments, and maybe this can work in larger scales. It is profitable, by the way.
Yeah. In case you wonder it.
In case you wonder.
And Rafa, just taking it from there, I love so many things of what you've said, but one thing that really makes me think about the future of the industry, when I hear you speak, and this applies to many other industries, we have been coming also from a paradigm of exponential growth. More. You read a Harvard Business Review magazine from 10 years ago, and it's exponential growth, and let's use technology to grow exponentially, and our planet cannot take that. We cannot take exponential growth. We need sustainable growth. And I've said this many times, and I'm sorry, but the only thing that experiences exponential growth in nature is cancer cells. We don't want that. We don't want to give cancer to our planet. We need sustainable growth. There is a movement around the world about degrowth or slow growth. And some people that have these chip, that no, we need exponential growth, more, think that's not profitable. You are proving those people wrong. You have around 500 hotel rooms?
500 rooms in 15 hotels and 10 destinations. So the economies of scale happen with probably 2 or 3 hotels in the same destination, which is what we're doing in Puerto Escondido. We have 2 hotels in Puerto Escondido. In Punta Pájaros, we're about to open a 3rd one in Mazunta, in San Agustinillo. So we have a team that will work in 3 properties, plus 1 omakase, plus 1 therm. So we are building a community. It is about that. It's a little bit in Mexico City. We're trying to do the same thing with the 4 hotels in Mexico City, 2 downtown, 1 in Condesa, 1 in Polanco. But it's about
Would you say that's the
thinking
future?
against the current. Against the current. I remember there was this English philosopher, Isaiah Berlin, who was think against the current, think the paradigm. This is a new paradigm. In 2000, I remember when HABITA was open, we got a lot of visits from the industry because there's something incredible that happens in the hospitality industry, but anyone can see the hotel. They just ask for a site inspection. And they see everything. They can open your minibar and they can see if you have the Buna chocolate, or if you've got the coffee, or if you've got the Arca Tierra produce in your restaurant. And it's something you do. And when they saw we didn't have a venue space, we had an open air terrace. They thought we were going to be out of business in 6 months. And after 23 years almost, I'm happy to say we're still here. And I don't see anywhere else we're going except other locations and trying to pray with the example of what we do.
Thank you, Rafa. So I get from that the future is also about community, building a community, quality as well, doing things well instead of doing a lot and growing disproportionately or exponentially, growing with meaning, with purpose towards something specific. And that's also important because we don't have unlimited resources. We don't. Our planet is one planet. There are a certain amount of resources that we can dispose of, and that we shouldn't dispose of in that sense, but try to regenerate as well to keep everything sustainable. And in that way, Enrique, what you're doing with Isla Urbana when it comes to water and water resources, and I mean, Rogelio, you know, this is happening as well in the north right now. There's drought and there's a huge issue when it comes to water. Mexico might experience civil wars because of water, so we need to act now. And you are doing an amazing project. So what could you tell us about what you've been doing, but oriented to the future? Like, what should the future look like, and what can we all do it to support what you're doing as well to make that happen?
So to contextualize a little bit more, the work we do is we started the project because we were very convinced, like almost 15 years ago, that Mexico City was on a downwards trajectory in terms of water resource availability, etc. We were very, very sure that water was going to become increasingly a chronic and increasingly a deeper crisis. And we were very sure that we do household level rainwater harvesting. So we install rainwater harvesting systems whereby the rain that falls on an individual house or school gets channeled, treated, put into a tank, and the family can use it. It's actually a very, very small scale solution. We never had any illusions that this would solve Mexico City's water problem by itself, but we were very, very convinced that it would be a very useful thing to develop because we were sure that as the water crisis deepened, first and foremost, it would impact people very unevenly, and there would be people who were already the people that had water problems would suffer worse water problems, and we needed kind of to start figuring out how to solve for that sector. But also we just became convinced that as the water crisis deepened, the water that currently rains on the city and goes into the combined sewage system mixes with all of the black water and gets funneled out of the watershed and into the ocean would no longer be like a wastable resource, so this resource that is now being wasted would become something that everyone would be interested in taking advantage of. So the project was founded very much kind of with what you're saying in sight. And it's kind of a tragic thing because, we have an organization that sadly does well as the situation gets worse, and that's not something that I'm particularly proud of, I'm not unproud of it, is that we are responding to this, but there's this water crisis in Monterrey, and the next week they're on the phone with us trying to launch a pilot program of rainwater harvesting, So the tendency that we're in right now, I think, opens a lot of opportunity for the kind of work that we do, which are kind of solutions for the crisis. But really, what we'd love to do is for these solutions to be able to actually kind of avoid the crisis deepening or going to that kind of a level. So really, our ideal would be, on a very superficial level, we say that, we want as many people as possible harvesting rainwater in their houses and buildings so that the city wastes less water and becomes more resilient to crises. Really, I think a lot of the work that we do, like a little bit deeper, is not actually about the installation of the rainwater harvesting systems themselves. I mean, that is, to me, a very profoundly life-changing kind of work for people. But really, a lot of what we try and do is just question the paradigms of like infrastructure models that we've worked with so far. No, so a lot of what we do is geared towards like even like the government or SACMEX in the case of Mexico City, Conagua nationally or something, to start seeing decentralized low-tech solutions as not just like kind of like a hippie like fantasy or something like that, but as something that actually works. No? So a lot of our work was from the beginning positioned as something that was trying to participate in a conversation about what infrastructure should look like, and us just trying to say, hey, there's a space, and we're not saying that all big infrastructure should be replaced by tiny decentralized infrastructure, but to say that this kind of tiny decentralized infrastructure, which is placed in the hands of the population, has a place and might end up having a pretty important place. I'm actually more convinced of that now than I was when I started, after seeing how kind of there's a lot of dysfunction in the massive water infrastructure and water agencies. Now, SACMEX, Conagua, since I started this 15 years ago, they're trying to pass the Ley General de Aguas and they can't. There's huge problems where they're not able to advance with, and a lot of the mass infrastructure proposals for Mexico are frankly absurd. No, for Mexico City, the long-standing plan is to put the Tecolutla River in a tube and pump it to Mexico from Veracruz. No, there's solutions that or for Monterrey, they talk about putting basically all the water in the Huasteca Potosina in a pipe and pumping it up there. I mean, I think that these are catastrophic solutions if they were implemented, but I also don't think that they will be implemented because we're barely being able to keep Lerma Cutzamala functioning. No, I think that the capacities of the government in Mexico have actually deteriorated in many cases. There's infrastructure projects that we were able to do in the 60s that we can't do anymore because of a deterioration in capacity, which is a frightening thing. But the fact that we're in that position means that very low tech things that you actually put in people's hands and say, hey, if Lerma Cutzamala fails, at least you should be able to harvest and filter rainwater on your house. Even if the government collapses, you can do that. That actually seems more relevant now even than it was, 12, 15 years ago when we started working on this. No? So I think that I think we're in a very precarious situation in terms of water. I tend to be an optimistic person, but I think that we're in a very, very delicate situation, and our organization is trying to create the space that proves that there are these other ways. No, it's not just about us selling and placing our rainwater harvesting systems. It's about trying to make space for other kinds of solutions as well.
Great. And thinking about the future, would you say that apart from the government capacity issue, is there something that we here in this room could do about it? Anything, install something at home, at our companies, or push for something, or think about or vote next time there's an election when we're considering these issues, or VCs, where should money go? Anything that we in this room could do, spread the message, how, where, what to do, where to click.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there are, and depending on who each of you are, you will have available different kinds of opportunities to help. No, I mean, there's the forever question of how much personal responsibility and small scale personal actions actually solve these massive problems or not. There's people that kind of argue both sides. There's some people that tend to say, whatever we do individually becomes irrelevant if there aren't structural changes that actually have much more massive impact. There's the other side, which I tend to find myself a little bit more in, which says, yes, that's kind of true, but also actually small scale things ripple out and have a lot of effects. No, I remember I did this tour with UBS, with this giant Swiss bank that I'm kind of a member of like a social entrepreneurship thing that they have. And they took me on this tour to talk to a bunch of really rich people in England. And several people in different moments said basically like, like I never gave a shit about the environment, but my niece won't get off my case about it. And that's an interesting thing, no? Like I've sometimes wondered, like we work with very low income communities. Sometimes I think we should actually be working with the rich kids so that they're like moving their parents. So I actually do believe a lot in kind of like individual people's things actually having an impact beyond themselves. So yes, definitely, install rainwater harvesting systems in your house. At least just like make an effort to not use more water or any other resource than you need. But also if you're in a position where you actually have a little bit more leverage, which I'm sure some people in this room have, definitely go beyond that. No, in my case, for example, like I like taking a little bit long showers and I totally shouldn't, but I kind of do. And I kind of justify to myself saying, we're harvesting like 1 billion liters of water a year in like low-income communities. Like if I want to take a 10-minute shower, it's okay. I probably shouldn't. That's probably not the right way. But like what I'm saying is sometimes what we can do about a problem is more very
personal.
Local on our personal things. Sometimes we can do something beyond that. And I think we each figure out how to balance it. But at least let's all be kind of aware of these problems, no?
Thank you. That was great. I think we can go home and do a lot of these things today, especially the shower thing, the short one. Yeah. I don't want to take up extra time from you guys, so I'm going to ask a question now. First to you, Lucio, and then to you, Alonso. We have seen that technology and innovation, they play a huge role, as well as capital capital, but also the attention of those who have a lot of power, either from the private sector or from the corporate sector, from the government sector, I mean. But it only goes so far. You were saying, Lucio, that nature has a lot of experience, around 3.8 billion years of our planet learning a lot about and iterating and pivoting a lot of things. So there's so much knowledge there. We're learning more and more about biomimicry and the power of biomimicry to build hotels and buildings and houses, but also we are learning that the soil is really the beginning of everything. It's where our food comes from, and if it's ill, if it's dead, if it's eroded, then our food will be very poor, full of pesticides and whatnot. And you are doing something about that. You're showing us that nature also needs to be heard, also needs to be learned about, and that, of all those followers of Bill Gates and big tech, that's one part of the puzzle. I'm not against it, but we should also listen to the other side, more Vandana Shiva, more people who are doing something to heal the soil. And you are the great example that we have here today as well. So what's the future of that? How do you see the future of your industry, of food, of the soil, of healing that in your experience with what you're doing? And Alonso, when it comes also to the oceans, I'll go with you first, Lucio, but then same thing. What can we learn from regeneration when it comes to the oceans? The Mar de Cortés was completely destroyed, and then there was a sanctuary there, and then we saw fantastic regeneration. And Cousteau said it's the aquarium of the world. And we saw a lot of animals coming back when we thought that was it. So what have you learned from that resiliency of nature? And if you can both share that, Lucio first, about soil healing and how can nature also be a teacher to all of us that are so much in tech and entrepreneurship and capital, and how can capital support those efforts?
Yeah, of course. I think that's first to start with, like the model of industrial agriculture is very profitable on a short scale of time, because you have to invest a lot on producing food with things that you bring from a lot of inputs, that are basically come from petrochemicals, and you can produce a lot, but the soil starts getting eroded and starts getting polluted, and there comes a point where you can no longer produce. And you can see that in a lot of parts in Mexico, that farmers, since the beginning of the Green Revolution, have started using fertilizers and pesticides and all that. The other model is like the hydroponics, that it's more like a factory. It's not really working with soil or with nature. So what we're beginning to realize, well, not now, not beginning, but we have to change as of now, as of yesterday, is that this system of agriculture has driven many places into deserts, into extinction, and in terms of profitability, it's becoming less and less. Now with the war with the Ukraine, fertilizers are becoming more and more expensive. So we're being forced to produce in another way. Lalo was mentioning, how it can become even more productive. There are examples, for example, in Brazil, there's this company called Natura that produces palm oil, but instead of with monocultures, it uses a lot of different plants, and it has greater yield than the monoculture part of Thailand and all these parts of the world that produce it. In my experience, it's also the same. You get to a point where the regeneration of the soil and of the place, really, you increase the resilience, and you need to, and we basically don't buy organic pesticides or anything, and just a parenthesis, we do use technology. We have small tractors, we do use microtunnels, sometimes biological control. We're not against technology, but I think it amounts to, you were quoting Bandana Shiva, that food production shouldn't be based on profit, and maybe for many of you guys, that's like, well, how are you gonna fund it then? The risk is that if you put profitability in one of the first criteria, then it's gonna fall into one of the places that we've seen it goes, But basically, and just to finish and to wrap it up, you can produce more, you can have a much more carbon sequestration, biodiversity. Lalo was saying you can read books and books and books. The only challenge is that we have to change our eating habits, because our supermarket reflects on the way agri-industry produces, and these complex systems of polyculture of life do not respect the supermarket and the way we have become more and more often used to eat. So that would be basically the solution.
Thank you.
Well, I might sound like I'm going a bit far with my answer, but I think one of the biggest problems that happened in nature was the colonization of the ancestral people that used to live in territories. Like a lot of this knowledge that was there already for ancestral times and millions of years was lost because someone came and changed the name to Mar de Cortés when there was people living there before, like long time ago. And I just want to mention that because I think the solution is in not walking back, but looking back, right? Looking back on how ancient civilizations that were there for millions of years did it and managed to have technologies, to have growth in a more sustainable way, and taking the good parts that we have nowadays. A lot of science now is based on taking, right? Take it to the lab, analyze it, and try to draw a conclusion from that. But in the early stages of knowledge, we used to observe what was happening in the area, how the animals work, how the plants work, what the plants did to the environment, to the people, without having to take them from where they were. So I think one of the things we can do is to start observing more and act a little bit less and observe more, so when we act, we can do better things. Like I like to take the example of many marine animals on how they work with nature. Like every animal has a role in nature. Like I think humans are like the only animal or earth living thing that doesn't have a role in nature on how to work for it and make it work for other species. Like we are takers and we have been used to take and take and take, and we don't think a lot on what to give. We don't think a lot on waste management. We don't think a lot on why the fuck are we putting all the trash in the rivers that lead to the ocean after, right? And so I think we need to stop a little bit and rethink what we're doing. And I think that there's a lot of actions that we can do, like in a personal place to change, like taking shorter baths or harvesting water, managing your waste. Like, we're the only animal that doesn't use their shit for something good. We use our shit to make more shit, right? Like, there's a lot of things we can do actually to generate a big impact with small actions. And I like to think of us as a big puzzle, right? And if one of the pieces of the puzzle is not there, it's not going to be complete. So let's take the example of bees and pollinate the world in a good way. We can carry things too. We can make the work that a lot of species that are the best examples on how to take care of the world are doing. We can help them. We can work with nature. So my opinion and what I think we need to do is start observing more nature, how it works, how nature builds, and start copying it. That's the way we can have an easier way out without less studying, without investing more money. Just observe what's around, go out in nature, see how it works. Animals that are doing it, I think, like, we're the most dumb animal, like, really. So I would like to close with that and just give it a think. Like, there's less organized species doing way better stuff to the world than what we're doing right now.
Thank you, all of you. It was really very interesting and stimulating talking to all of you today. And for all of you, first of all, I think Dalus, that was amazing what you put together today and tomorrow. I think it's amazing also to bring people not only from the traditional tech and entrepreneurship track, but also these guys who are doing something amazing based on nature and learning from it. The message that I get from all of you as well, and something that I want to share with all of you is we have a lot of issues. We know that. We see that every day in the news, but there are so many solutions there. It's also an exciting time. We're reinventing everything. This is a modern Renaissance era. And when you feel desperate, look at these guys. Look what they have been doing. Here, they're calling as well. You know, Enrique is telling us we need to pay attention here. Alonso as well with the ocean. We can do business differently. It can be profitable and enjoyable. Rafa said, best job in the world, and it's true. And also thinking about our habits. We need to relearn. We need to unlearn. We need to question ourselves about everything, what we thought should be and how it should be, about the way we eat, about the way we live, about the way we interact with nature and learn from it, and be more humble as well. And also understanding that tech plays a huge role, capital plays a huge role, but we also need to build together with nature, co-create with nature, and challenge all these profit ideas that are not serving the planet and therefore not serving our future and the potential of humanity. Imagine what we're doing today with technology. Imagine in 100 years, if we make it, what we will be doing in the world. And I'm sure in 100 years, your legacy will be also visible. I'm sure it's going to be positive, and I'm super excited. I won't be there, I think, but who knows that we're going to be celebrating that we took the right decisions today. So thank you, super inspiring. Thank you for leaving us also with a lot of homework to think about and start practicing differently. Thank you.